Hey guys, this is Tom with TrackMagic.com, and here we are for just a quick two-man queue. This is the kind of a little shift to the deck that I've made here after the PTQ the other day, and this is kind of a take on the blue-white humans with the sort of more of like a mid-range aspect. Took out the pure steel element to the deck we played at the PTQ and went more, just kind of a little bit more for value. I had been seeing kind of the combo less and less and less, and there are more important cards that really are playing a big factor in the sideboarding in terms of Fiend Hunter, which has a great interaction with Restoration Angel. I really wanted to try sort of Feast and Famine over sort of Body and Mind, and then also being able to play main deck Talia as well as Silverblade Paladin, I think really will give this deck some reach. So here we are for just a quick two-man queue, and I like this opening hand. It I think has some good cards for us in it. So it looks like we're probably up against like red-green aggro. We could be potentially up against Naya. But I mean, you know, I really want to see kind of how, I guess this is the blue-green Infect deck. I really want to see how the Feast and Famine works for us, because I think that now that we have, you know, kind of more expensive cards, we really will get more value out of it, and being able to actually untap and use the extra mana. In addition, you know, it is so good against zombies, it's so good against Naya, it's so good against red-green aggro. And I really ran into some of the major problems of having the Body and Mind, just because it allowed our opponents outs, especially if they have like Runechanter's Pike in play, or, you know, allowing them to flash back a Ancient Grudge. So there were some problems with that card. Here I kind of want to, you know, sneak in a Blade Splicer. I could also go like Champion and then just copy the Champion, which may not be the worst. I think I just want to make a Blade Splicer instead, though. Just get a little bit more threat. You know, we have, against this deck, we have so little time to actually kill them that every single point of damage matters. I ended up playing against the this type of deck actually with this most recent version last night, and you know, the Relic Warders were just absolute all-stars, being able to get Wild Defiance, being able to get rid of their Livewire Lash, so really very impressed with them. And then also Talia was great because it, you know, played key moments where they didn't have enough mana to cast all their pump spells, and so you know, it performed pretty well. But at the same time, this is a very offensive deck here, and we will see how it goes. He could easily just kill us next turn. So I guess he's kind of gearing up for a really big next turn. He potentially, I suppose, could be running Mana Leak. I didn't think that this version of the deck ran Mana Leak, but you never know. Okay, so we had enough damage here to get him, but he may have been able to kill us the next turn, so you know, up against blue-green Infect, we want to bring in Mental Misstep. I put in Flash Freeze instead of using Negate, partially just because I think it really does more. You know, kind of the main aim of Negate had been to stop Day of Judgment and, more importantly, Bonfire of the Damned. So Flash Freeze does that, and it also stops Huntmaster, you know, most of the other threatening spells that we have there. What I did is I took out the negates, and then I kind of, I wanted to have like another way to stop it, so I had also one Nevermore, which also is great against, you know, any of the Titans, very good against, you know, there's, I guess there's this black-white deck that's now running Curse of Death's Hold, and that deck is pretty threatening, so yeah, I think having access to a Nevermore really does help. But anyways, back to blue-green. In fact, we want to bring in Talia, the Relic Warder. What else do we want here? Spellskite is amazing in this matchup, being able to redirect all of their stuff. O-Ring. Okay, what are we taking out? Let's see. So we definitely want to have the gut shots. Fiend Hunters are still great. Feast and Famine, I mean, it's okay, but it's kind of slow. I think we want to cut Feast and Famine. The Angel, while it is amazing, is a little bit too slow, and we just don't have time to play around with Angel. So I think we want to cut that, and then just kind of go for as quick of a possible win as possible. What else do we want to cut here? Image. I mean, Image is not as effective. It's good, you know, when we are copying. Well, yeah, I think Image is a little bit weaker here. I think let's kind of go like this. But you know what? I should have taken out the last Image and replaced it with Nevermore, because if we can Nevermore like Wild Defiance or, you know, one of their win cards, it's actually not bad. So this hand is fine. But, you know, Fiend Hunter and Talia and Gutshot will all play a really big role. We're probably just going to Gutshot that guy, but I want to make sure we do it on our turn so he doesn't get a chance to pump. So here I think we just go ahead and we could drop down Talia. I mean, we could also drop down like Image to, actually Image is not the worst here. If we just Image this guy, he dies post-combat. I kind of like that. Then again, Talia does kind of slow down his stuff, but I think actually Image is what we want to be doing here. So then he dies to state-based effects. Alright, unfortunately we really needed that land. Now we're going to go ahead and drop out Talia. Problem is now we're in a little bit of trouble because if he has the equipment and then he has the, you know, if he has the spell, which I'm sure he will, then he'll be able to take out our team. So we can just keep stalling until we can Fiend Hunter here. Alright, that is unfortunate. Well, I think the big thing here is we want to make sure that we don't die, and we could very easily die if we attack, so I think we just need to sit until we're able to Fiend Hunter this guy. now that he's a Nexus, we have to start attacking. Alright, there's our money card. So now we can go ahead and Fiend Hunter his guy, start bashing in. And so next turn we're going to go ahead and drop down Splicer. Because now he's going to get in for 3 or more. We have no time to waste here. So let's see, next turn he swings in. If he can't kill us next turn, then I'm not sure we can do enough here. Let's see, 3, 5, 7, 10. Ugh. We need some kind of answer here. We most likely need like Lean and Relic Order here is pretty much our out. That is also our out. Well, let's see, does that do enough? 6, 7, 8, 10. Ugh, not quite. We might just be dead here, but I think it's worth trying. Just in case he has, you know, some sort of creature to bring in end of turn. But I think this might be it. Oh, I guess he did not have the pump. Very surprised. Well, anyways, so this is the build here of the deck, and kind of get a little bit more into it. You know, I really like how Misstep plays against. Let me just take a moment here to kind of talk a little bit about the sideboard plan. So, kind of the way that I had this built, you see a lot of one-ofs here in the sideboard. When we're up against, say, Delver as an example, we're going to bring in Talia. We bring in Spellskite, Relic Order, and the Missteps. So as an example against Delver, one of the more common matchups, we're going to be taking out Feast and Famine, and we're also going to be taking out, let's see here, against Delver. I'm still kind of working through some of this myself as well, so you know, I think we also want to, like, Silverblade Paladin is certainly fine, but we can get blown out against Delver with Silverblade Paladin just because, you know, if they either gut shot the other guy or if they Vapor Snag, we can put ourselves into situations where we do get blown out. And since I think all the other cards here are very strong, I really want to see basically all the cards here in the deck. I think that, you know, by taking out Silverblade Paladin and Feast and Famine, bringing in these cards here, we really set ourselves up to do quite well against Delver. You know, having the triple Relic Warder, the triple Fiend Hunter to deal with their all their Golem tokens with their Blade Splicers and Restoration Angels, and then Talia just, I mean, having 4 Talias against Delver is just a beating. And having Gutshots of our own to deal with their own threats. And then I also reintroduced Honor the Peer, and I think that, you know, we have enough white creatures also with running Silverblade Paladin. It's really just begging you to run Honor the Peer. Then against the red-green aggro matchup, let's look at the sideboard plan. So against red-green aggro, we know when we want to bring in the Grafdigger's Cage, so we have the Trinket Mage Grafdigger's Cage combo. And if we're bringing in 2 Trinket Mages and a Grafdigger's, we really want to go ahead and bring in the Life Staff as well, just so we have, you know, another target. If say the Grafdigger's Cage is in our opening hand, we want to have access to another target. We're going to be bringing in O-Ring, Nevermore for Bonfire the Damned, you know, or Huntmaster or whatever. And then the Flash Freezes and the Purge. Spellskite's also pretty important just because it redirects Pillar of Flame, it redirects the, you know, if the player doesn't see it coming, and if they have a Wolf Run, you can redirect the Wolf Run for some very funny blocks. I don't know if we want to have Mental Misstep against red-green. I mean, some versions have been running Pillar, some versions are not running Pillar. They all run 8 birds, but you really just got to ask yourself, where do you want to have your threats dealt with? Because there's so many cards that we need against that deck, and it's just sort of finding what we can take out. So, you know, against red-green, one of the cards that they may also be running is going to be Arc Trail. And I think that, you know, kind of with that in mind, we got to ask ourselves, well, if we're going to get blown out by Bonfire the Damned, we can consider if we want to take out the Gather the Township, Champion of the Parish package. You know, this can be very good, but we have to find some room here to bring these cards in. And I think this is probably what we're looking at, just because, you know, we're not going to always have the Nevermore or the Flash Freeze. And I think that it's very important to have access to that, but at the same time, you know, I mean, a little bit later on is where we can get really blown out. You know, turns 6 or 7, where they have enough mana to really threaten us and punish us. And we may have some other cards on the table like Blade Splicer or an Angel, and, you know, just utterly wrathing our board, we really are unable to deal with. So, other cards here that we could potentially move in and out. We could take out Talia. I'm not sure about Talia if I want Talia in or not, just because, you know, Talia is very good against Stranglerootgeist. It does slow down, you know, a number of their spells like Bonfire. Also, it slows down the Green Sun Zenith if they have any swords, you know, or Pillar. But I'm not sure how many spells that deck really runs. It does run a lot of creatures, and we may want to have something else there. So we're, you know, putting Talia here in the maybe pile. And the other card which we could potentially cut is Gutshot. I mean, Gutshot is very good against their birds, but then again, you know, we really got to ask ourselves, what do we want to stop that they're playing? You know, we can slow down maybe the turn 3 Huntmaster, but if we have, you know, an answer for it already, in some ways, do we really care? Because, you know, having the bird just sit there, you know, well, yes, it can hold a sword, not all that threatening. And if we waste our time, you know, killing their birds, then their later threats we don't really have answers to. So, you know, I mean, it could be right to keep the Gutshots in. These are just things thinking about here. We want to make sure we have Relic Warder, I think, number 3, just because if they resolve either Feast and Famine or War and Peace, I mean, it really is a beating, and that can just take us out of the game right there. And I think, you know, kind of with the Pillar of Flame, they don't have a lot of other X1s in their deck, so, you know, I think that actually having Misstep is maybe a little bit better than Gutshot, just for some of it, just because then we can still counter the birds, we can still, you know, counter the Pillar of Flame, you know, so maybe just a little bit more versatile there. So looking at some cards we're bringing in, we're looking at 13 cards here that I think we do want to have access to. And so if we cut this, that's 8, 11, 14, so we can leave one of these cards in. And I think that if we're going to leave one in, maybe leave in a Gutshot. You know, you still have the... I don't really know about Talia. I really am not sure, just because we are bringing in a number of spells. We want to make sure we can actually cast our own spells, so, you know, it's going to slow down our O-Ring, Nevermore, Flash Freeze, all this stuff here too. And we do have swords we want to keep in. They become more expensive, as well as the Honor of the Peers. So I think maybe taking Talia out might be the right move. Now, by making this change, you know, we really do sacrifice our early game in a lot of ways. And I'm not sure if it's worth it or not, but let me know what you guys think. And then in terms of Naya, the board for Naya is pretty similar. It really is. And now let's go to the major third matchup that I want to talk about, and that is the sideboard plan for zombies. So, against zombies, we want to make sure that we're bringing in Talia. I mean, Talia really is pretty good against zombies. It stops 8 of their 1-drops. It, you know, roadblocks the messenger. We want to make sure we have access to Spellskite in zombies, just because they're going to have Tragic Slip, and we need Purge. We're going to bring in Oblivion Ring. We can certainly, I think, find use for Grafdigger's Cage and Lifestaff, and we want the Trinket Mage package. Misstep here is not as good as Gutshot, just because Gutshot plays a very important role in taking out their Blood Artists, which have to die if we're going to have a chance of winning. We may want to bring in Relic Warder. I mean, we have 2 already, but they do take care of Mortar Pod, and some zombies decks can, like, bring in... they sometimes bring in, like, Ratchet Bomb. You know, if they do have a War and Peace in the sideboard, I mean, it's absolutely critical we have an answer to it. So I'm not sure about Relic Warder if we want 2 or 3 at the moment. Nevermore, I think we probably do also want, if we're able to Nevermore before they're able to drop Messenger, or if we're able to, you know, Nevermore before they can play a Blood Artist, you know, those are 2 cards that are just very, very dangerous. Also stopping a Falconwrath Aristocrat, the 4/1 flying doohickey. That card is really trouble, and I think having Nevermore will be a good thing. So, you know, if we're up against the red-black version, of course we do have access to Flash Freeze. And, you know, I mean, they do have Brimstone Volley, they have the Falconwrath Aristocrat, they have Bonfire of the Damned, you know, so I think the Flash Freezes are probably necessary also. And let's take a look at what we want to cut here. This is the hard part, you know, making the cuts. We still want to have access to Blade Splicer for sure. I mean, Feast and Famine is very good. I'm not sure about Relic Warder. I mean, they can set up the, you know, recursion with the Gravecrawler and the Mortar Pod, so I mean, we probably do need to have a way to deal with their Mortar Pod. Image is not as strong just because they have so many targeting effects, including Mortar Pod, and, you know, they also have, they don't have any targets that we want to copy. What else? Fiend Hunter is still very important. Paladin I think is still quite good also. Then I think other cards here, we might consider taking out Angel. I mean, Angel, it is a path to victory, and it still does give us, you know, extra Splicer tokens, but we can get blown out, especially if they have the, you know, Tragic Slip in response, and it is more of the higher end, and so if we get stuck on land, Angel may not be where we want to be. You know, kind of with that in mind, so if we take the Angels out, take out the images, you know, we're up to 7 cards, and we still need to make 4 more cuts. These last cuts I'm really not sure about. I mean, the problem with the whole champion gather package is if we take out gather, we need to take out the champions, because the champions are going to be much less powerful. I mean, they're still going to be, you know, average or whatnot, but really not where we want to be. Gather the Townsfolk I think is pretty important, especially with Honor the Pure. It gives us some nice roadblocks. And I think, I suppose, you know, with Talia, we could potentially maybe shave some Talias just because, you know, she makes casting some of our spells a little bit more difficult, especially since we have some higher end spells, you know, O-Ring. So if we were to shave the Talia, we'd need to cut 3 more. If we cut the other 3 Talias, that would bring us to 10 we need to get these cards in. I don't know if that's correct or not. You know, once again, Talia does also slow some of their spells down, and in addition, it's a very good way to stop the turn 1 Gravecrawler or the turn 1 Diregraph Ghoul. So, not sure about this here, but if we're bringing in some more of these spells, I think we may want to consider it. Anyways, that's kind of some of the thoughts here with some of the sideboard plans. We're going to be doing a 4-round daily here in just a little bit, and we will see you guys then.